Hey guys, it's Eric with the Miller Park Minute, where we're throwing strikes and getting likes, hitting dingers and getting listeners. Back again with another episode. This is your only Brewers daily podcast. We talk about the Milwaukee Brewers and baseball every day. 5:30 a.m. Central Standard Time is our upload time. That's when every video, every podcast goes live. We are on Google, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, Pocket Cast, iHeartRadio, you name it, Radio Public, we're there. We're everywhere, Castbox. And today we have a special guest. It is the Thirst and 10 podcast. They are Wisconsin sports podcast. Two gentlemen here that are fresh to the podcast game, and they've got a lot going on for them. So you can catch them on Twitter. They are on Anchor, Spotify, not Apple yet, but they will be there. We just talked about it. They're getting there. Before we drop over to them, remember SeatGeek code Miller Park Minute, $20 off your first order, and check out the new website, millerparkminute.com. You can check out the latest in updates there, and the news and notes and different things that I will be adding. And there's going to be more coming up this week once I get the extra time. And of course, if you want to support us on Patreon, you can go over to patreon.com/MillerParkMinutes. And you can join the community over there if you want to help us out in any way, shape, or form. There's a range of monetary donations that you can make. You can sign up for a monthly donation if you like. All right. On with the show. Sorry about that, guys. The Thirst and 10.
Good.
If you want to introduce yourselves to the audience, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm Jimmy.
I am Marcus.
And we are Thirst and 10. We are a Wisconsin sports podcast, usually a little bit intoxicated by the time we record our show. We are a weekly podcast. Episodes usually drop at about noon on Saturdays. We record them on Friday night, have a few beers. If you're somebody who likes to go out to the bar and talk a little bit of sports, we are the podcast for you. And we're pretty much strictly Wisconsin sports. Like, we'll talk Super Bowl or big events, but we're not going to bore you talking about the Lakers or the Yankees or anything like that. So,
I love it. And that's one of the unique things here is we get to do this, what we like to do, and just talk sports. And I like how you said usually around noon. Meaning, hey, maybe we had too many cocktails on the last episode, and it was like 1:45. Sorry, right?
It's noon somewhere.
5:00 somewhere. I gotta get my mug back on the Brewer Fanatic webpage. Gotta do another video. There's always just so much to do. So today we're going to talk about all kinds of random things and randomness. I didn't have a set agenda, and I don't really set an agenda, as many of you know. I just kind of shoot from the hip, so that's what we're going to do. First thing I want to bring to the attention and talk about today was top 10 projected FIP leaders among all starters. You guys have an idea, or have you seen this list?
Yeah, we can look it up real quick.
So you don't need to look. I'll just read it. It's fine. I think I shared it on Facebook. But so they got DeGrom at a 235 or 2.35, Spencer Strider 293, Carlos Rodon 298, Shane McClanahan 299, Tyler Glasnow 302, and Corbin Burns 303. And then the rest we don't care about. I like the rest of them, but it's just not relevant to the Brewers and the Wisconsin Sports Avenue. So, that's one of the things we're going to start seeing more and more of these lists popping up. How do you guys feel as far as like some of these newer metrics go? The wars and the things like that, the StatCast era stuff that you see. Do you guys get into the Fangraphs? Do you have that Fangraphs app on your phone and you read it, or?
Yeah, for sure. That's right up my alley. I'm a financial analyst in my personal.
Oh, okay.
So I love numbers, but I also think there's some truth to the fact that if you're good with numbers, you can make any numbers look good that you want. And I think that's kind of the problem. Every single GM has the exact same numbers in front of them. So which ones are reading the right ones? That's going to be who really can put together a winner. And at a certain point, you can make the case that Andrew McCutchen is a big free agent signing when maybe his best years are behind him. So I do like the advanced analytics, but you still have to use some gut. You still have to use some common sense when you're putting together your team. And I think sometimes the Brewers are a little bit too numerical.
I would agree with that statement because you look at, and you see all these projections for Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff and all of our guys, and you're like, okay, yeah, they project really well. And on paper, everything looks good, but it's what looks good on paper doesn't necessarily always compute. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, Corbin Burns is great and phenomenal, and I definitely think that's one of those people that in the long haul should be a Brewer for a long time. Reality, I don't know, but I'm not at a point where I think he can be traded. I feel you are stupid if you think he needs. Sorry, just could be blatant. If he needs to be traded right now, his value is the highest right now. Yeah, we also have a playoff window right now of guys that we have control of.
So I mean, how long do you think the playoff window is open for? Because right now I'm struggling to see it staying open much more than this year. Burns, Woodruff, Adames, and Lauer are all
free agents.
They have two years at the end of 2024, I believe. So 2 more years.
As long as
you don't trade them now,
as long as you
have to trade them next year.
These 3 players in that rotation, no, because that final year you could still do it. I mean, if they go into free agency and they just pitched in a World Series, that's great for them. If Corbin Burns just pitched his Cy Young season that year, it's good for them. But if we don't come up with something in between or come up with a wealth of money, I think there's no stop to one unless everybody dissipates off the team. You know what I mean? Like, if you get and things can happen. I mean, I'm not saying that they're complete idiots for not locking everybody up and not having this all done right in this moment, but I mean, you could get a guy that gets sidelined by a career-ending injury like a Prince Fielder. I mean, hindsight 2020, we didn't lock up Prince Fielder, and then a year later or 2 years later or whatever it turned out to be, it wasn't very much longer. He wasn't much further into his career, and he was done for life. So,
right. I mean, there's a ton of risk with any of those types of contracts. You could even say with Yelich, he hasn't been the same player since he broke his kneecap.
That's our exact example.
If Yelich does return to form, though, this team is going to be very dangerous. But does he return to form? I think that's the biggest question mark going into the season, and it has been for the last 4 years.
I keep saying, and this is just me. This is just where my head goes and where my crazy runs. If I was Christian Yelich, I would go on and I would, what do you got to do as a baseball player? Reality. You got to work out in the offseason, right? Well, and live life. Okay, well, you can still live plenty of good life and go to the gym 2 times a day. You probably got a gym in your house. I mean, you signed a $300 million contract. I mean, come on. Play for it, like work for it, okay, go hit the cages every day. Bring in a guy, hire an old timer, a Hall of Famer to come work with you, one of the things that they talk about with Nelson Cruz is Nelson Cruz has spent a lot of time with Juan Soto. And that's cool to hear because a young superstar like Juan Soto is spending time with like a veteran player to improve his game. You know what I mean? He's taking notes from a guy who's been around the league for a long time.
And that sounds a lot like when Yelich was at his best was when Braun kind of took him under his wing.
Right. Now, I don't know the involvement that Braun may or may not still have with a guy like Christian Yelich. I feel like Braun's one that he walked away and he walked away. You know what I mean? I don't think
Yeah.
we'll see him at fan camp. I don't think we'll see him. He'll pop in here and there, make a name appearance just to be, hey guys, cash a little check from the brew crew and call it a day.
He'll do like the run and walk for the cure for AIDS or something like that every October or something in Milwaukee. But yeah, I don't know if he wants to be a coach or wants to be a front office guy or anything like that.
Right. Well, I thought I saw somewhere, and I didn't speak on this on the internet because I couldn't confirm, but I thought I saw somewhere that Lindblom is going to be like a special assistant type of. Did you see that?
Yeah, I thought they said almost like a front office guy, not even like a coach. I don't think.
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
like the same
like
path that Craig Counsell went down.
Like kind of doing that like back office stuff like Counsell started when he, basically needed a job post playing career is what that came down to. And I think that's really key. Now, the one thing that Braun had over the years that Yelich just hasn't done yet is he has he's not the face, so to speak, of the franchise. And I rip on Yelich for this a lot. He is the advertising face, but because of the way his personality meshes across the board, and you can see it, he's not very good at being the in front of the camera guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's more Willy Adames almost.
Yeah.
That's where I think they need to do Willy Adames, because Willy Adames is that kind of charismatic guy that you can just put out there, and he should be the new face of the franchise.
I think he kind of has become the de facto face, just with honestly, like Yelich's like downturn in play. I think like when he was really good, then that kind of took up for the fact that he was like, isn't as like fun and energetic, charismatic as somebody like Willy Adames. Right. I think now that he's not playing as well, it becomes more apparent,
Amen. I agree. And I think you kind of got to remold the team. I think one of the big X factors last year was, we lost a Lorenzo Cain, personality of the franchise. You lost a Josh Hader, everybody's friend. He was the guy that was everybody's friend. And I've harped on this 100 times on my show. You probably have heard me spin yarns about it for days. But when you lose a guy that's that much of everybody's buddies and they've all worked together, been friends, go fishing in the off season, whatever it may be, when you lose that guy, that really hurts. And then another guy that they lost is Brent Suter. So this team has a whole new nucleus and they got to build around it. Now, Willy Adames and Urias have a friendship because they talked about that last year a lot, that they were working together in the offseason in Mexico, and then they went to Adames's home and that kind of thing. And that's good. But we need to build that foundation again and start it all over.
Yeah, and I kind of think it just goes back to your original question about the numbers and the analytics and those types of things. But when you talk about clubhouse chemistry and what does a Brent Suter bring to the team that doesn't necessarily stick out on a stat sheet, can you really quantify that? And I think that's what they're losing. And you mentioned it too with Hader and Kane. And, people were really in the clubhouse too. They were pissed when Hader was gone. We saw Williams talk about it. We saw Lauer talk about it. People don't like the message that sent. And we'll see if they can fix that. And I'm not sure they will, because I think they might be a little bit too enamored with the numbers and not enough with just building a team that wants to have fun and go out there and win games.
Well, and that's the thing that happens here. We're always worried about, well, we can cash this guy for this many prospects.
Yeah.
And then they dropped a guy the day after the trade. I mean, it was like, well, wait a second. You wanted to get this haul. You got said haul, and then you outed a guy the next day. You just released him and let the Colorado Rockies pick him up.
And then he goes like 7 shutout against the Cardinals the next day.
Right. And it's like, what message does that send to us as fans? I mean, I want to be positive and I want to be in a good light, but a lot of times when I get talking and when I get down the road, my logic and my brain says to me, what the fuck? Like, what's got
You speak for a lot of Brewer fans right now.
Because it's like, okay, we've held on to a Keston Hura, a Corey Ray, these guys that just didn't ever come to be anything. And I mean, in my head, when an employee's not working out, and I don't own a business, I mean, I own businesses, but I don't have employees. But when somebody doesn't work out, you axe them and you move on.
Right.
We give these guys perennial chance after chance. Like, do you think Tyrone Taylor would be on any other big league ball club besides the Milwaukee Brewers?
I mean, a bad one, maybe. He's definitely not on the Cardinals. He's not on the Phillies.
Who do the Orioles have in their outfield? They're like one of the worst ones. The Pirates. Oh wait, they got Andrew McCutcheon.
Yeah.
Ryan Hayes. Brian Reynolds, right?
Yeah, Brian Reynolds is the one I was thinking of.
The really good one. And those are bad teams. I wouldn't say Tyrone Taylor is better than any one of those. And we're considered a contender in a lot of circles. You know what I mean?
Well, how long is it going to be until Sal Frelick and Garrett Mitchell just play him out of a job? Like, isn't that kind of the hope? Year.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Honestly, my hopes out of this whole spring training, and I guess you can tell me what you think, but I think that we end the relationship with Keston Hura. We end the relationship with Tyrone Taylor. We go in with a young core. You bring in a Bryce Turing, and you bring in, you've got enough backup infielders that you could bring in these young guys and let them play their way onto the club.
Well, and I think if you're going to talk about a Bryce Turing, are they holding on to Bryce Turing because they're worried that maybe they won't have Willy Adames in 2024? Is that the plan? Is he the fallback? And
right, is that why he hasn't started? Like, why he hasn't gotten a call yet?
Well, and they've had so many opportunities to trade him. And if you were thinking that you were going to have Adames for the next 10 years, I think they might be a little bit more willing to make a move to improve the team at the deadline last year. Because Turing seems to be one of those guys who would have been expendable if you're thinking, we have Adames. Now, I don't know who the third baseman is going to be. I don't think the Brewers know that. But you also look at some of the, outfield prospects too. You have a Frelick, you have a Mitchell, you have a Joey Weimer. And then you still have Christian Yelich. Where are they all going to play? And
you signed Jesse Winker.
Wonder why aren't they
for Jesse Winker?
Yeah.
Well, and
where are they all going to play?
And that's part of getting rid of Hunter Renfroe. I mean, you could read into the rumor that somebody said that he was racist towards the Hispanic players or whatever. You saw that. I'm sure you saw that post on Reddit where that guy went on that. I had lunch or dinner with a Brewers, and I'm like, yeah, the guy didn't tell you all that. That's BS. I'm sorry, I didn't buy a second of that in a single word that guy said.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're the Brewers and you're 1% worried about it, maybe you just make the move because you don't want any part of that headache. But yeah, it didn't seem very believable to me.
No, it was more cost saving, getting more pitchers, which we like to do. We like that crop of pitchers. We like that, they want to use guys. They want to use that. And Catronio actually told me that this is the Tampa Bay Rays in a nutshell. They call guys up, send them down, call guys up, send them down, just keep refreshing the bullpen. And the Brewers are at this point where it's like, okay, we see that pretty girl across the bar. But we're good. Nope. Let's give me another one, bartender. Let's order another one. That's where they are with a lot of these. They're half in. They're half committed to going to have the conversation to make the move to get somewhere.
They're baseball's version of purgatory.
Yeah. That's why you've got guys like Tyrone Taylor and Keston Hura sitting around.
And honestly, I'd rather they just go all in and try to win, or start the rebuild. Like, I'd rather they do something or another. I don't want them to necessarily just constantly, we want to win enough games to get to the playoffs, but are we really going to compete for a World Series? I'm not sure that they have that talent right now, but they're not in a rebuild.
Right. What's up, buddy? No shirtless boys on podcast.
Fine, I won't take my shirt off.
Different kind of show.
1 second. That. You want his charger?
Hey, you can't plan for that one.
Nope. That one I didn't know. I forgot that was even in here. But yeah, and I think part of where we are now is with this load of players, they're just kind of doing this thing where they're like, well, it works with the pitchers. You know what I mean? How do you guys honestly think, like, we've gone from a team that had straight 1 to 2 players per position? You know, like there was a guy, and then there was the guy who was going to play if he got hurt.
Right.
Now it's like we've got the guy, we've got this guy, but he can play over here too and over here. Do you think that's a product of Hernan Perez?
Well, I think it's a product of Craig Counsell. I think Craig Counsell wants a team of 9 Craig Counsells. You know, he doesn't want the cleanup hitters and the 3 hitters. You know, he wants 9 guys who are going to be scrappy, who can play everywhere, who are going to fight, and that's what he wants. I don't know if Craig Counsell necessarily wants a team of Ryan Brauns and Christian Yelich's. I think he wants 9 Craig Counsells.
I like it. I like that thought process because honestly, that's something I've never really like. I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have thought that, but that truly makes sense because they were asking him now. For the audience, I didn't mention this, but I listened to the recording of the seat holder talk with Craig Counsell, and he was talking a lot, and it's all kind of ringing true now that you said that. He was talking a lot about the depth and having that positional depth. And I think there was specifically a question asked to him about third base or infield positions. And he said, well, we have a lot of depth. So it will be, it was about Urias and
Brasso,
Toro.
No, it was about Urias and
Owen Miller.
Brian Anderson.
Oh,
and they're saying, well, who's going to get third base? And he said, well, we have that depth. You know, you can start Luis or you can start Brian Anderson. Brian Anderson also can play right field. So he'll be the primary backup to the right field position.
Yeah, I don't know if I love that setup.
I don't really like that either. That seems weird to me.
I also think baseball is a game of routine, and I would rather, show up to the park and know, all right, I'm going to be playing third base. I'm going to bat fifth. I'm going to, this is what I'm going to do. This is my job. I want to be able to approach every single game the same way. And I think that kind of goes back to the whole Craig Counsell wants 9 Craig Counsells because he never got that opportunity. He'd bat first, then he'd bat 8th, then he'd bat second, then he'd come off the bench. So I don't think Counsell necessarily wants that, but I think me and Counsell would not agree on that.
Right. And that's the hard part because it's like, okay, you look at what we've done and what we've had the budget to do. I actually read an article today, and I have to laugh at some of these articles. I don't know how much time you spend, and no disrespect if you're someone who writes articles. But if you're going to write an article and try and trash the team, know the information before you write the article. Somebody said we spent $4.5 million on free agents this offseason. That is an incorrect number.
We spent
8.7 or something like that. It was less than $10 million. But the point is, when you're going to write an argument about how the Brewers are cheap, at least have your numbers right.
Which 8.7 is still pretty cheap.
Like, know how cheap we are,
Right, exactly. Know what you're talking about. 4.5 was just the contract that we signed for
Miley.
Miley. And we did sign other contracts. But it was dated today. That was the funny part. But
who wrote the article?
It was a fan-sided article. It was just one. When you're scrolling the random Facebook and you see an article and it's Brewers and you're like, oh, maybe this will give me some background to my podcast conversations.
See, my favorite are the trade proposal articles where it'll be like Christian Yelich and cash for Josh Donaldson or somebody like that. And you're just like, no,
why?
Nobody would do that. Like, yeah, the Yankees would probably do that, but we're not going to do that. We're definitely not giving the Yankees cash.
And no one, there's no, like, it's just like everybody trading away Keston Hira or Christian Yelich is a guy that there's nothing there that anybody's going to really want to unload or take on that contract for us. We're kind of stuck. It's the boat anchor deal, and it is what it is.
Right.
You just roll with it. I mean, there's certain things you're going to expect in life, and that's one of them. Christian Yelich's contract until he plays better is not gonna change.
Well, do you think he will play better this year?
I'd like to hope so. I'd like to hope that for once I can be right about Christian Yelich going to work and just working all off season and getting better.
Do you think it's mental or do you think it's physical with him? It seems like ever since that broken knee.
And that's the tough part because I think we see flashes of it. We see flashes of old Yelich.
Like that 500-foot home run at Coors.
Right. That's where it's hard. And he'll go on a couple days where he'll go on a streak. And it's like, okay, we're seeing good baseball out of Christian Yelich. I think last year at the end of the season, he finished up pretty hot. And I was like, oh, all right. Let's run it back. Let's bring it back. But
it always seems like when we get that, though, then, I forgot how many weeks he had without a home run. He had that really long spell this year. It's like it's almost like my golf game. Like I do just enough to get me excited when I go, and then when I go after that, then it's terrible. So I wish that this was the way out for him, but
the whole after a birdie, I know I'm taking a triple bogey the next one.
Yeah, our triple bogey's coming, I think.
Well, and the tough part is now I was clicking on his stats as we were talking. The tough part is with Christian Yelich, you look at the fact that he should be better than he is. I mean, he's already in. Gosh. He's been playing since 2013. He's going to be 31 going into this season.
That's weird. It seems like it's kind of a make or break year for him.
Right. 253 is the average projection, just depending on. There's a couple different projectors here projecting it on Fangraphs.
And 253 is good if it's with like 25 to 30 home runs.
Yeah,
if it's 253 with 11 home runs.
They're saying 18 home runs.
Yeah.
Yeah, 18 to 20 is kind of what everybody's ranging at. 2 to 3 WAR, 2.8 to 3 for WAR is what they're saying. I mean, if he could get to that range, I'd be happy with it. I would be really happy with it. I'd love to see a 30-30 season out of him. I think it's possible for him. I think capability in the body of the person is there.
Well, and I think he can do one thing or the other, right? He can either hit for power or he can hit for average. I think if he tries to hit for power, he's going to have a lot more strikeouts. He's going to have a lot more ugly plate appearances. But I think he can still hit 25 to 30 home runs. I just think it's going to come at the expense of a lot of average. Or he can, like we saw for splashes this year, he can hit for average, but he's not going to have much power. It's going to be a lot of ground balls, a lot of CNI singles, just a lot of singles in general. So I don't know if he can do both.
Yeah.
And he used to be able to.
Oh, man, I didn't watch last night's Bucks, and they put up 50. Or Giannis put up 50.
Yeah.
I'm just reading it. I was just looking at it right now. It just came across my ticker. Damn, that sucks. Was that a good game? Did you watch it?
Yeah, I actually tweeted at the beginning of the game that Giannis is going to casually score 50 tonight. And then he went out and did it. So I felt pretty proud of my prediction.
Wow, that's a on-par prediction. Do you guys do any prediction type of episodes? I don't know how long has your podcast been in?
So we're on episode like 23 right now.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll do predictions usually at the end of each episode, but not that specific.
Well, you're welcome to come on. Let's see here. When exactly am I doing that? You're welcome to come on my predictions special. We're going to run an hour-long predictions episode, and it's going to be like the final week of spring training. We're going to do a series of right before the season predictions. So they start against Chicago, right? I'm just looking at the schedule, my schedule now. At Chicago on April 1st, is that right?
Yeah, I mean we can make it work. That's for sure.
So before then, you're welcome to come on. I'm gonna try and get. This is gonna be a collaborative effort. So part of doing this for the audience here, part of doing this is we want to collab with each other. I'd like you to go check out Thirst and 10 and everybody else that I've brought aboard, and that's why these gentlemen approached me and why we decided to have this conversation. And besides the fact that we enjoy talking baseball, and now we've gone on for about 30 minutes. That's what this whole thing is about, guys. It's about having conversations and having fun.
Yeah.
We're not paid. You guys aren't paid. I mean, you probably made a couple dollars on Anchor, $3, $4, $2, $5, somewhere in that vicinity.
There,
One beer.
You're getting hundreds of listens every, episode. No, I think you gotta get thousands before you make any money.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, we're not close to that.
Yeah, me neither. It's okay.
We're doing it for the love of the game.
Right, and that's what this is about. It's having a conversation, sitting in front of a microphone. You may, invest in stuff over time. You may not. You may just get a nice $30 podcasting mic or use what you got. That's how it works, And that's what I've done for so long. I've just been in this for forever and taken a lot of long breaks. This is actually now going into, I think this episode tonight is probably like the longest stretch that I have done back to back to back to back to back to back to back. I think 30 days is my longest run of doing any kind of consistent. I was doing since I started. I mean, when I started, I was doing a crazy amount of videos, but they were all short videos. They were never long form content. And one of the things that this Brewers, this Bucks, this Packers area needs, Wisconsin Badgers, Marquette, all the different Wisconsin sports needs, is guys that'll go the long haul, put together an episode that's 30 minutes, 20 minutes. I mean, Bart's show is like an hour and a half sometimes,
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, those are the episodes though, where they get like, it breaks down random and there's a guy in a bathtub or Bart.
Yeah, he gets a lot of callers.
He's stoned on CBD gummies and he's looking at old Sega games. That's when it goes off the rails.
Yep. Bart attracts a certain audience, and I think I'm part of that audience. So.
It's so random. I love it. I mean, I couldn't do what he does, but I like it. I mean, I like to watch it and I like to engage in it. That's one of the biggest.
It's always
things.
Entertaining.
Yeah. They're not even talking sports half the time. One of my favorite podcasters right now is Pat McAfee. And the reason being is his show is so much hype, so much enthusiasm. The guy stands there in a tank top essentially every day, and he's jacked. He's in there and he's WWE announcer, and he's entertaining.
Yeah, the energy I think is what makes it
fun. You got to make it fun. Now, I think we should end on this. I think this is because we've kind of collectively, and I always do this, I waffle on this guy so bad. Craig Counsell is going into what could possibly be a lame duck year. Now, I said when they talked about Willy Adames and they asked that question and everybody got in a huge uproar that they haven't had a conversation with Willy Adames, I said, you realize this is like elementary school. These guys go away for the winter and then come back for spring training. They're not calling. I mean, they talk to the coaches here and there and they talk to the organization, but they pretty much leave them alone. The organization's figuring out budgets and free agents and the back end side of the baseball games. Do you think it comes down to when Craig Counsell's sitting? Now, Craig Counsell lives in Milwaukee, obviously, or right outside Whitefish Bay. But do you think it comes down to spring training where he gets an extension? Do you think they let him ride a lame duck year out? What do you guys think?
I think he stays. I think he's going to sign an extension. I think, like, he's our guy, right? He's Milwaukee's own. I do think he's a really good manager. I think sometimes the resources Mark Antanasio gives him makes his job incredibly difficult. And I think maybe he did lean in a little bit too much to those really versatile guys as opposed to guys who would just go out there and be a difference maker. But yeah, I think they'll sign him. I think they'll re-sign him. I think if he got fired from the Brewers or they didn't extend him, they let him go, I think he would last 5 minutes on the open market.
Yeah, I think spring, I think he'll get an extension. Like we mentioned on with like the 9 players that are Craig Counsell's, I think with the kind of lack of resources you mentioned, I don't think anyone's really that good at kind of getting what we get out of the Brewers, getting the maximum out of kind of, I don't want to say the minimum, but not like the Yankees roster or something. So I think you got to keep Craig and they'll extend him in spring probably.
He gets more out of $5 million players than a lot of managers get out of $20 million players. Now, eventually, there's a reason why there's $50 million difference between them. And maybe he makes a $5 million player $7 million and the $20 million player plays to $10 million. But like, there's a reason why that they're paid that way. And I think Counsell does more with less. I think if he was a free agent on the coaching market, the Yankees or somebody would hire him in 5 minutes.
I agree with that. I think, you look at a guy like a Buck Showalter and where the Mets went last year when they spent all the money. And you think, okay, now you put a Craig Counsell with those same players, he's going to get more out of your expensive Francisco Lindors or your Max Scherzers because he's gonna play the game right with them. And as much as his management of pitching is different a little bit, that's also because he's using the audience that he's got. He doesn't have the Max Scherzer, the veteran. His veteran is going to be Wade Miley, and Wade Miley could potentially
he's 5 at best.
Yeah, I mean he's not going to be the best guy you have out there, but he's still going to be one of your solid guys, and he's not going to be that guy that's going to push himself to go 8-9 innings. He's going to put out a solid 6 and be content.
Yeah, and I mean they do have so much starting pitching, right? Because they still have Burns, Woodruff, Peralta, Lauer. You hope that's going to make up 80% of the rotation. Then you add in somebody like a Miley, like an Ashby, like an Adrian Hauser, even who's still on the team, like a Jansen Junk. They have so many guys who can start for them right now. Ethan Small, even. They have 8 or 9 guys who could, in my opinion, be a big league caliber pitcher. How is he going to use them? I think when Counsell's at his best is when he has relievers who can go multiple innings and when he can bring in a reliever in the 4th inning. I think that was his best managing season was 2018, and that was when he had Josh Hader to be the equalizer no matter what any other team did. If we were playing the Cubs and it was bases loaded because Gio Gonzalez walked 4 guys straight or whatever. All right, Anthony Rizzo's coming up. I'm going to bring in Hader in the 4th inning, and I think he's going to have a lot more opportunity and a lot more versatility in his bullpen. But we'll see. I don't think he has a guy as good as Josh Hader. And the guy who could maybe be that good is Aaron Ashby. But I do think there's a lot of opportunity for versatility. And I think he's going to have a little bit more talent and a little bit more opportunity.
Right. And I think we're at that point where they are still very much in that, well, we'd like to use a 6-man rotation. And I think that's why you get an extra guy like a Wade Miley and stuff like that. Because even one of the questions that he answered today was like, yeah, Counsell just wants to run a 6-man rotation. He wants that to be how the game is played. He wants to run them out for 5 innings and use 6 guys and have a fresh guy every, that's what he wants at the end of the day.
I really hope they don't go with the 6-man rotation. Now, I think they're going to. And the reason is I want Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta. I want them starting 60% of my games as opposed to 50.
Right.
I want that extra 10%. That's 16 games over the course of a season that, you're probably looking at 8 more wins if you do that, in my opinion. So
For sure. I agree.
Yeah, there's my analytics talk.
Gosh, we got way over that last question. That's all right though. Sometimes it's good to go long. One of my theories is just like give them what you got. If you got something like last night's episode, I was half awake because it was a piss poor episode, and I blame myself. But at the same time, I put one out and I talked what was on my mind, and because my mind was so drawn out from no sleep, I talked to sleepers, and I said Adrian Hauser and I think
Owen Miller.
Owen Miller, yes. Did you listen to the episode?
I did. Yep.
Did I sound super tired?
I didn't think no.
Sounded great to us, Eric.
Yeah.
So I did this thing where I get in front of this microphone and I can just record myself and look into this camera and just talk. And I don't know what it is. So it's weird. But anyways, let's wrap this up, guys. So I'm Eric. This is the Miller Park Minute. We record daily podcast, 5:30 a.m. Your only daily Brewers podcast that is up. We're on Apple. We are on Spotify. We are on Anchor. We are on Amazon, Pocket Cast, iHeartRadio, Radio Public. You name it, we're there. You can go over to the MillerParkMinute.com. The Brewers, the Miller Park Minute and the Milwaukee Brewers is the Facebook group. YouTube Miller Minute. Instagram is the Miller Park Minute or Miller Park Minute, one of the two. There's a lot of social handles, guys. I have them all. But that has been it. This is Thirst and 10. I'm gonna link them up in that corner over there, above their heads. I'm gonna link up their show, and we'll get this out to you here. Yeah, it's always one of those. I don't know. Subscribe. It comes over here or over there. It's whatever. Is what it is. But hey, thanks guys for being on. Thanks for chatting baseball with me. I hope to have you on again real soon. As always, guys, go Brewers.
Go Brewers. Cheers.
Thank you for watching the Miller Park Minute. Go Brewers.